I told my wife I didn't want her mother coming to live with us, and now she's locked herself in the guest room and won't come out. The silence in this house is deafening. It's been 3 days since I came home from work to find my mother-in-law's ancient luggage in the hallway. 3 days since my wife Amelia looked at me with those eyes that said, "Please just go along with this." And 3 days since I said no. 3 days since she turned around, walked into the guest room, and closed the door behind her without a single word. I'm sitting at our kitchen table right now, staring at a cold cup of coffee that I made 2 hours ago. The house feels wrong. It smells different, like the lavender sachets Margaret uses in her drawers have somehow seeped through the closed door and taken over the entire space. Or maybe that's just my imagination. Maybe I'm so hyper-aware of her presence in this house that I'm inventing smells. My phone buzzes. It's a text from my brother Derek. "You survived the night, or did she finally poison your coffee?" I don't respond. I haven't responded to anyone since this started. My co-workers have sent concerned messages. My best friend David called 4 times yesterday. Even my boss sent a weirdly formal email asking if everything was okay on the home front. Nothing is okay on any front. The guest room door has become a monument in our home. I walk past it when I go to the bathroom at night. I see the strip of light underneath it when I'm lying alone in our bed, staring at the ceiling. I hear the occasional creak of floorboards as she moves around in there, existing in a space that's supposed to be for visitors, not for wives hiding from husbands. I need to go back to the beginning, I think. Maybe if I write this all down, it'll make sense. Maybe if I see the words on paper, I'll understand where everything went so catastrophically wrong. Margaret moved to our city 6 months ago. She sold the house she'd lived in for 40 years, the house where Amelia grew up, the house with the creaky porch swing, and the garden that Margaret tended like it was her third child. She sold it because she said she was tired of the cold, tired of the snow, tired of being alone. Her sister had moved down here years ago, and Margaret wanted to be close to the family. We helped her find an apartment. A nice one, too. It was a ground floor unit in a brand new complex, about 20 minutes from our house. It had granite countertops and in-unit laundry and a little patio where she could put her potted plants. Amelia spent weeks helping her decorate it, picking out furniture that would fit the space, hanging pictures of Amelia as a child on the walls. It was perfect, or so I thought. The problem started small. Margaret would call Amelia 3, 4, 5 times a day. Little things. The remote wasn't working. The neighbor's dog was too loud. She didn't understand her new phone. Could Amelia come over and show her again? Could Amelia pick up some prescriptions on her way home from work? Could Amelia stay for dinner because Margaret didn't want to eat alone? Amelia would go. Of course she would go. She's an only child. Her father died when she was 16. Margaret raised her alone, worked 2 jobs to put her through college, sacrificed everything so Amelia could have opportunities she never had. Amelia owes her everything. That's what Amelia says. That's what she's always said. I understood the guilt. I did. My own mother wasn't perfect, but I understood the complicated web of obligation that ties children to parents. I just didn't understand why Margaret couldn't make friends her own age, why she couldn't join the senior center, why she couldn't take an art class or join a book club, or do any of the things that normal retired people do. She's lonely, Amelia would say, her voice tight with frustration. She spent 40 years in that house, Daniel. She had friends there. She had routines. She had a life. Now she has nothing. She has us, I'd say, but we can't be her everything. Amelia would look at me with those eyes, the ones that said I didn't understand, couldn't understand, would never understand. And maybe she was right. I had a good relationship with my parents, but it wasn't like this. My parents had each other. They had friends. They had hobbies. When they retired, they bought an RV and spent half the year driving around the country, sending us postcards from national parks and calling once a week to say they were still alive. Margaret had none of that. She had Amelia. That was it. So I tried to be patient. I tried to be understanding. When Amelia spent her Saturdays at Margaret's apartment instead of with me, I told myself it was temporary. When our date nights got canceled because Margaret was having a bad day, I told myself it wouldn't last forever. When Amelia came home exhausted and tearful, worn down by her mother's constant needs, I held her and told her it would get better. It didn't get better. It got worse. Margaret started coming to our house. At first, it was just for Sunday dinners, which was fine. Then it was for Wednesday night dinners, too, because she was lonely on Wednesdays. Then it was for Saturday lunches. Then it was for random afternoons when she'd just show up, let herself in with the key Amelia had given her for emergencies, and make herself comfortable on our couch until we got home from work. I came home one Tuesday to find her in my kitchen, cooking something that smelled like cabbage and regret, using my pots, my stove, my space. She didn't even look up when I walked in. She just said, "Oh, good, you're home. Can you reach that top shelf for me? Amelia keeps things too high." I stood there in my own kitchen, in my own house, and felt like a stranger. That night, I tried to talk to Amelia about boundaries. I used that word carefully, gently, like I was handling something fragile. Boundaries. We needed boundaries. We needed our space. We needed our marriage to come first sometimes. Amelia cried. She cried and cried and cried, and I held her and felt like the biggest asshole on the planet. She told me I didn't understand how hard this was for her mother, how Margaret had given up everything to be near us, how Margaret was struggling with depression and anxiety, and the terrifying realization that she was getting old and would eventually need help she couldn't give herself. I'm not saying we abandon her, I said. I'm just saying we need to find a balance. Amelia nodded and wiped her eyes and promised she'd talk to her mother about calling before she came over. She promised she'd try to set aside more time for us. She promised things would get better. They didn't. 3 weeks ago, Margaret fell in her apartment. She wasn't hurt badly, just a bruised hip and a shaken sense of security. But it was enough. She called Amelia in a panic, convinced she'd broken something, convinced she'd lie there for days before anyone found her, convinced she needed to be somewhere safer, somewhere with people who could help her if something happened. Amelia spent that night at Margaret's apartment, then the next night, then the night after that. She came home to shower and change clothes, but she was sleeping on Margaret's couch, keeping watch, making sure her mother was okay. I started sleeping in our bed alone. When Amelia finally came home, she looked like she hadn't slept in weeks. Dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a messy bun, clothes wrinkled and stained with what I hoped was coffee. She sat down at the kitchen table across from me and didn't say anything for a long time. "She can't live alone anymore," Amelia finally said. "Not after this. What if it happens again and I'm not there? What if she falls and hits her head? What if she has a heart attack and no one finds her for days?" I knew what was coming. I could feel it in the air between us, heavy and inevitable. I could see it in the way Amelia wouldn't meet my eyes, in the way her hands were twisting together in her lap, in the way she kept swallowing like she was trying to keep something down. "She needs to be somewhere safe," Amelia continued. "Somewhere with people who can check on her. Somewhere." No. The word came out before I could stop it. It hung in the air between us, sharp and final. Amelia's head snapped up, her eyes wide with shock. "What?" "No." I said again. "She's not moving in with us. That's not happening." Amelia stared at me like I'd grown a second head, like I'd said something incomprehensible, something in a language she didn't speak. Her mouth opened and closed a few times before any sound came out. Daniel. She has nowhere else to go. Her sister can't take her. She's in a one-bedroom apartment. The assisted living places in the city are either unaffordable or have waiting lists years long. She needs to figure out her own life. I interrupted. She needs to make friends. She needs to find hobbies. She needs to stop treating you like her personal caretaker and start living her own existence. Amelia flinched like I'd hit her. That's not fair. She's not what? She's not completely dependent on you. She's not slowly taking over our lives. She's not destroying our marriage one day at a time. I was shouting now. I didn't mean to shout, but the words kept coming. All the frustration and resentment I'd been bottling up for 6 months finally exploded out of me like water through a broken dam. I come home to find her in my kitchen, Amelia, my kitchen, using my stuff, making herself at home in my space. She calls you 10 times a day. She expects you to drop everything for her. She expects me to drop everything for her. And now you want her to live here? In our house? In our sanctuary? Where do I go when I need to get away from her? Where do we go when we need to be us? Amelia was crying. Tears were streaming down her face, but she wasn't making any sound. She just sat there, letting me yell at her, letting me say all the things I've been holding back for months. I married you, I said, my voice breaking. I married you, not you and your mother. I signed up for a life with you, not a life where I'm the third wheel in my own marriage. I need you to choose. I need you to choose us. The silence that followed was worse than the shouting. Amelia sat there, tears still falling, and looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. It wasn't anger. It wasn't hurt. It was something else, something that made my stomach drop. I need to think, she said quietly. She stood up, walked to the guest room, and closed the door behind her. That was 3 days ago. I've tried everything. I've knocked. I've left notes under the door. I've slid plates of food into the room. When I hear her moving around, she takes the food, but she doesn't eat it in front of me. She takes the notes, but she doesn't respond. I hear her using the attached bathroom at night, hear the shower running, hear the toilet flush. She's alive in there. She just won't talk to me. I called her mother yesterday. I had to. I needed someone to talk to, someone who might understand what was happening. Margaret answered on the first ring, her voice bright and cheerful, like she hadn't just caused the biggest crisis of our marriage. Daniel, how lovely to hear from you. Is Amelia with you? She hasn't called in a few days, and I was starting to worry. She's in the guest room, I said. She won't come out. She won't talk to me. There was a pause. When Margaret spoke again, her voice was different, quieter, more careful. She told me what you said about her choosing. I didn't mean it like that. I mean, I did, but I didn't mean for her to. I just needed her to understand that we can't. I know, Daniel. Margaret sighed, and for a moment she sounded like exactly what she was. An old woman, tired and scared and lonely. I know I'm too much. I've always known. I just don't know how to be less. I didn't know what to say to that. I still don't. I'm not moving in with you, Margaret continued. I never expected to. I don't know why Amelia thought that was the solution. I was looking into senior apartments before I fell. Places with actual staff, actual activities, actual people my own age. I just hadn't told her yet, because I wanted it to be a surprise. I felt something crack inside my chest. She doesn't know? She doesn't know. I was going to tell her this weekend. I found a place, Daniel. A nice one. It has a garden and a craft room and weekly bingo nights. I was going to tell her I'm moving there. That she doesn't have to worry about me anymore. That she can have her life back. I sat down heavily, the phone pressed to my ear, my heart pounding. You have to tell her. You have to tell her now. I will. I'll come over. I'll make this right. Margaret came over an hour later. I let her in, and she walked straight to the guest room door. She knocked gently, then spoke in a voice I'd never heard her use before. Soft, tender, maternal, in a way that made my throat tight. Amelia, baby, it's Mom. Open the door. I need to talk to you. Nothing happened for a long moment. Then I heard movement inside, footsteps crossing the room, the click of the lock. The door opened a crack, then wider. Amelia stood there, her face pale and blotchy from crying, her eyes red-rimmed and exhausted. She looked at her mother, then at me, then back at her mother. What's going on? Margaret reached out and took Amelia's hand. I found a place, baby, a senior apartment. It's lovely. It has a garden and bingo and people my own age. I was going to tell you this weekend. I never expected to move in with you and Daniel. I never wanted that. Amelia's face crumpled. She started crying, really crying, the kind of crying that comes from somewhere deep and hurts coming up. Margaret pulled her into a hug, and I stood there like an idiot, watching the two of them hold each other in the doorway of the room that had become a battleground. Why didn't you tell me? Amelia sobbed into her mother's shoulder. I've been so worried. I've been so scared. I thought you needed me. I do need you, Margaret said. I need you to be my daughter, not my nurse. I need you to visit me on Sundays, and call me once a day and tell me about your life. I need you to be happy. That's all I've ever needed. I don't know how long they stood there. Long enough for me to feel like an intruder in my own hallway. Long enough for me to retreat to the kitchen and sit down and put my head in my hands and wonder how everything had gone so wrong. Eventually, Amelia came in alone. She sat down across from me at the table, the same place as we'd been sitting 3 days ago when this all started. She looked tired, but the anger was gone from her eyes. What was left was something rawer, something more vulnerable. I'm sorry, she said. I should have talked to you. I should have explained what I was thinking instead of just assuming. I got so caught up in trying to fix things for my mom that I forgot we're supposed to fix things together. I reached across the table and took her hand. I'm sorry, too. I shouldn't have made it an ultimatum. I shouldn't have said choose. That wasn't fair. It was fair to need me to prioritize us. It was fair to want boundaries. I just didn't know how to create them without feeling like I was abandoning her. We'll figure it out, I said. Together, that's the point, right? We figure things out together. Amelia nodded. She squeezed my hand. For the first time in 3 days, I felt like I could breathe. Margaret moved into her senior apartment 2 weeks later. It really is nice. Her unit is on the 2nd floor, overlooking the garden she helped plant. She has friends now, actual friends her own age who play bingo with her and watch movies with her and complain about their aches and pains with her. She calls Amelia once a day, but now it's to tell her about the funny thing that happened at dinner or the new plant she bought for her balcony. She sounds happy. She sounds like herself. Amelia and I are figuring it out. We have date nights again. We have weekends where we don't do anything except exist in our space together. We're learning how to be us again, how to prioritize each other without feeling guilty about it. The guest room door is open now. I walk past it sometimes and see the bed made, the pillows arranged, the room ready for actual guests. It's just a room again, just space, just a place where people sometimes sleep. Last night, Amelia and I were sitting on the couch watching a movie when she leaned her head against my shoulder and said, "Thank you for not giving up on me." I kissed the top of her head. I could never give up on you. You're my person. You're always going to be my person. She smiled. It was the first real smile I'd seen from her in weeks. Even when I locked myself in guest rooms and refused to talk to you, especially then. I paused, but maybe next time just talk to me instead. My knocking skills are getting rusty. She laughed. It was the best sound I'd heard in months. The phone rang later that night. It was Margaret calling to tell Amelia about the water aerobics class she'd just signed up for. She sounded breathless and excited, like a teenager talking about a new hobby. Amelia listened, laughed, told her she was proud of her. When she hung up, she looked at me with something like wonder in her eyes. "She's okay," Amelia said. "She's actually okay." I pulled her close. "She's more than okay. She's thriving. And so are we." We sat there in quiet of our living room, the TV muted, the world outside dark and still. It wasn't perfect. It would never be perfect. But it was us. It was real. It was enough. The guest room door stayed open all night.